Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Thursday, the 7th day of July, 2022. Well, I hope everybody's doing well today. The cottonwood is still flying, or the cotton is still flying, I should say, from the cottonwood trees. They shed this time of year. Only it seems like it's happening for a longer time. Maybe it got started later. I'm not really sure. But usually it's over by now, and I have cotton everywhere in my yard. And you go out there, and instantly, you get allergic to it. And anyway, I can't breathe. My husband can't breathe. It's so lots of nettle tincture, lots of nettle tea in my tea, and I harvested some anise hyssop, so I'm going to make some tea for both of us today. With that, that's another thing you can make tea with or tincture with that can open up your sinuses and make you breathe a little bit better when you have what looks like cotton batting all over your yard and it floating, little tufts of cotton floating through the air. It's a mess. It's just a mess. It gets in your potted plants and you've got to pull it out, and it's awful. So I don't know. Such is life around here. Anyhow, if this is your first time here, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and start with the esoteric influences for today. Now, that's from the post on the blog over at Stepping Aside. The web address there is imsteppingaside.com. And if you click on Show More, those of you who've been here before, and hi, thanks for coming back. They know you just click on Show More, scroll down a little bit, and you'll see a bunch of links. Well, the link to the blog is in that. So anyhow, so for today, with the 7th of July, we have a 7 numerology for the day, which is observation, balance, meditation, seeking truth, analysis, and justice. The rune today is Awaz. It means the horse. It looks like the letter M, and means momentum, intuitive bond, change. It's the Merkaba or soul vehicle, so it can be useful in trance work. It also means partnership and mutuality, or binding toward mutual end. The Geomancy rune is Karser, which is self-imprisonment or isolation. It can also mean attainment. It can mean that you're bound or into outmoded ideas and beliefs, typically. It's considered an evil geomancy rune by geomancers of old. It involves restriction and the heavy hand of fate. The sun's in Cancer, the moon's in Libra until Scorpio at 10:15 p.m. It's also first quarter moon today. And the planetary governance is Jupiter. So you search for meaning to your experiences and you love sharing what you've learned with others. This is also a time when you're able to look critically at past frustrations and outmoded ideas and beliefs and see them in a different light. Your strong foundation provides insight to others and a basis for your own transformation. That said, take time to consider how you come across to others and recognize that struggle is simply part of the process. So don't struggle too much. Sometimes the struggle opens doors to new things. So, I'm probably going to see if my tea is ready to drink yet. Otherwise, it's too hot. I can't drink it. So let's take a rune, though. We'll do the significators of the reading first, the Elder Futhark rune and the Geomancy rune. And with that, I just put my hand in my rune bag and let the runes fall through my fingers, and the one that ends up in my hand is the one that's for today. And I think we just had not these. I don't know if it was on Monday or if it was maybe Thursday of last week, but I know recently we had not these. This is the one of the Norn runes. Hagalaz, Isa, and Nathis are the Norn runes. And to me, they hold a little bit different weight than the other runes do. It's not that, they're not all soul archetype runes, because they are, similar to the major arcana being soul archetype. But the thing about it is the Norns are the ones, according to the lore, that gave Odin the runes to begin with. That he hung upside down from the world tree, sacrificing himself to himself, which means he took out an eye. I don't know. And he gained enlightenment from what the runes could tell him. It's not just a language. I view runes really as a language of spirit. And So when you see one of the Norn runes, in this case, Nathis is the need within, or the friction within, to manifest something. It's more fiery than the others, and I think that it really is a concentration of will. It's made up of Isa, kind of one side skewed, the other side straight down in its normal presentation, which is the rune of the static realm, or the present moment. So it's alignment. But with Nathis, you're taking that alignment and you're concentrating the will, and you're focusing on manifesting something in the future. So Nathis would then be the rune of the future, the Norn rune of the future. You see a skewed Kenaz throughout, so it's invoking the light of spirit into all of it. So you can see it's a very powerful rune when you want to manifest something. Let's get my 4 geomancy runes out. I throw the elemental ones down there. They're coded to each element, and then I'm going to put the 4. For a while there I was saying 3. It's like, no. But I'm going to put the 4 geomancy runes in the order of fire, air, water, and earth, and we'll see what we come up with. A single dot it describes an active presence. A dual dot, a passive presence. So today we have Cauda Draconis, which is one of the here it is. Here it's one of the moon's nodes, geomancy runes that govern it. This one is governed by the south node. Its complement or opposite Kepet would be Kepet Draconis would be governed by the north node of the moon. So with the south node, though, you're talking about the influence of karma. Again, this could be considered an evil rune amongst geomancers of old. I don't see it that way. I view, when you start to see evil into something, I just view that as the ego coming in and having pure ego driving the whole experience. And so, you can see the past through eyes that are more ego-based, I suppose. But at the same time, you can look at how the past influences the present as well as the future. So if you're looking at Cauda Draconis and Nathis, then what about past experience? Even if it's past life experience, what about the past experience is now going to inform whatever you're going to manifest for the future? And where is that coming from? Are you learning something from the past, or are you stuck there? And today with the esoteric influences, we have Karser, which there seems to be an element today of bound by outmoded ideas and beliefs. And so it's going to take the inner will with Nathis to break free of that and to manifest something new. And so let's see with the cards then, what is that going to look like? I've already shuffled a bit, and we'll just do a little more. I hope everybody had a nice 4th of July. If you celebrate that, there was a lot of people around my area, including a neighbor, that were shooting off, the really big fireworks into the sky as you normally see at fireworks shows. I don't know where they get them, but my neighbor had a whole bunch. So we sat outside and watched, and that was pretty cool. And then you could see through the trees other areas where they were doing it. And the one in the town, there's just so many trees have grown up. It used to be you could see that from our property back when we moved here in 81. You could, the trees weren't as tall everywhere. And so, and juniper has a tendency, there's a lot of juniper around here, they have a tendency to grow slowly. So it took a while, but now you can kind of, in this one little empty pocket, you can kind of see part of it. But you don't get to see the whole thing anymore. And we didn't feel like driving into town, with everybody else driving into town. So besides, I had enough of the fairgrounds when I was on jury duty. So they weren't doing, I don't know, maybe they do some of it in Bend, but at the courthouse, but right now they had it in a big conference room so that everybody could be distanced from one another if you were on the jury and if you were if you were sitting there waiting to be chosen for the jury, you're going through that whole voir dire process, then you're at least you're a ways away from one another. And so, because it's this massive conference room and with really tall ceilings, and so it makes it a little bit safer. So that's where they were holding court as well. So anyway, because the courthouse is just in our area, it's not, I mean, it's a good sized courthouse, but the rooms are small and the ceilings aren't very high up, and it's just way too densely packed, really, during a pandemic, to have people in there, especially if people aren't in masks. I think I might have been one of the only ones in a mask that was there. So, and that was, in the big areas. So I don't know. The things you have to do, though, when you've got health issues going on and a pandemic going on. So, okay. So we have, let's see, we have one card from wands, so the fire element, one from swords, the air element, two from swords actually, but one of them is a member of the court. It's the King of Swords. So I don't know, I may want to move these around, but right now, let's not. Let's just leave them in the order I drew them. Right now we have a 6 numerology for the overall reading, because we have the 5 of wands and the ace of swords. So 5 and 1 is 6. So 6 is going to be a greater level of harmony than, say, the 4. And it's going to be empathy, assistance to others. Let's see, shared path maybe. So an understanding of harmony in maybe in a different way. It could be ill dignified, like with the 6 of let's see, is it the 6 of Pentacles, where you definitely see the have and the have-nots, and he's giving some coins, but he's not elevating them off the ground. So there's only so much harmony there, right? So it just kind of depends on the situation as to how that manifests. But that's kind of the idea here. Let's take a look at the 5. Here we have a bunch of guys all holding staffs, and it looks like they're fighting, but nobody's getting hit. So it's almost like it's play fighting. It's creative conflict is generally how I see this card. So it's maybe the clash of ideas, the clash of wills, but not in a way that is harming anybody. 5 is also about protection and change and travel and all of that. It also means the pentagram. So I think that even though you see a lot of nonsense going on here, and a mother would be like, "Oh Lord, put down the sticks, for crying out loud." They're just out there having fun, it seems like, it's just the clash of wills, but without anybody being harmed in the process. Then we come to the King of Swords. You see butterflies on the back of his throne here. It's the air element. You see some clouds. You see, if this could be, if you could call him Odin, then this would be Hugin and Moon and thought and memory up in the sky, maybe. He's an older man in authority, obviously. He's analytical. He's powerful. He's logical. He's clever. He's the boss, basically. He's holding a sword in his right hand, but it's kind of aimed toward, it's not straight up and down. It's kind of aimed toward the past. So in that regard, I wonder if we're looking at karma, and maybe the outmoded ideas with Carcer, a little self-imprisonment there. Instead of having things in balance, it's slightly askew there. So I wonder if that could, with him, indicate maybe somebody whose authority is there, but he's kind of stuck in his own perception, maybe in past perception, perhaps. I wonder if we could read it that way. The interesting thing about tarot, I'll just tell you, if you're new to it, is when you're looking at the cards, you have to be looking at the other influences of the other cards. And with this reading, I have influences from other modalities, basically, to try to factor in, to give a richer type of a reading. But if that's the case, if he's analytical, then you could be, what are you analyzing? You're analyzing something that just happened, or a set of circumstances, or a set of beliefs, which indicates something that's already there. So that could so therefore that could then align it can align well even with the idea of karma or self-imprisonment. Restricting oneself, letting fate guide your choices and your decisions, maybe. So it's almost like, in a way, it's kind of a passive presence, as opposed to the Five of Wands, which Wands is the fire element. So therefore, it's creative, it's dynamic, it's the birth of something new. It's momentum, it's nathis, basically, the friction within to manifest. Here you have friction between people, raising a bunch of ideas that maybe, nobody's really listening to one another. It's not like they're sitting down at a table and throwing out ideas in the center of the table to talk about. This is my idea. No, this is my idea. No, this is my idea. And it's kind of a bit scattered. At least with the king, it's narrowing it down and maybe defining it into, maybe some past issues coming in and defining how he sees things. And then we have the Ace of Swords. I'm probably going to take another card here, because it doesn't feel like I'm missing something here. Here we see a hand reaching out from a dark cloud. All the aces do this in the Rider-Waite. We see down here, we see a couple of craggy mountains. It looks like there's some blue to them, so I'm going to say that that's probably snow or ice. It doesn't look like it's water. I mean, I suppose, I don't think it is. In other words, I don't think that they're little craggy rocks that come up in water or anything, although it kind of looks like it. But I would say that it's probably reflective of glacial snow, maybe, at least in this particular deck. We see a sword completely upright, as opposed to the sword here, aiming toward what would be the past. It pierces a crown with garlands. Now, anytime you see something like that with the crown, you're talking about higher awareness. And so the hand that's reaching out from the unknown, basically, is one that reflects higher awareness. And so the answer to the creative conflict of the Five, and also to the King of Swords, perhaps maybe being a little bit stuck in outmoded perception, is to allow higher awareness to come in and, inform whatever decisions you need to make, or, whatever. If you look at the Five, you could also look at that in terms of opportunities. So maybe you've got a group of people trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? What's our next thing that we're going to do? Our next opportunity we pursue? What is that going to be? And nobody can really agree on that. There's just all this stuff that you're having to think about, and you need to use nathis to concentrate the will into making some kind of a choice where you're not stuck in outmoded perception like with the king, possibly, and that you're willing to make a decision with the swords, with the Ace of Swords. The aces are said to have to contain all of the energy of each suit, and so all of the energy in the suit of swords is contained within this ace. And so in a sense, that's another form of nathis, this concentrated focus where you're able to make a decision out of a lack of clarity. And you could say that as you release old perceptions, as you're able to then manifest something you were unable to do at the point where you're with the five. You see, nobody's really listening to one another there. Well, at some point you have to do that, and hopefully you're not stuck in some kind of outmoded perception where that's going to color the choices that you make. Instead, allow higher awareness to come in and say, look, there's another way of seeing this, and what's the way that can really benefit you and others instead of just simply yourself. I'm going to take the 13th card, and it's the Hermit. Card 9 of the Major Arcana. Here we're definitely up on top of a snowy peak. We don't have to wonder like we're doing here. What is that? Is that water? Is it glacial snow? What, glacial ice? What is that? But here you have a connection to today's rune from the esoteric influences, Ewaz, because one of the descriptions of Ewaz being a soul vehicle, or Merkaba, you see a Merkaba lighting the lantern here. So there's an element here you're withdrawing with the Hermit to get above everything, and so that you can get some clarity, getting away from the noise, getting away from all of the the outmoded perception maybe, and you're allowing the Ace of Swords to work a little better for you, and you're taking that same higher awareness and you're using it to light your existence. He's got a staff in his hand. It's reasonably upright there. So he can make some decisions, whereas, here we can't. So I think that this is really bringing in the idea of getting away from the noise, getting away from the chaos of the five, and away from the idea of outmoded perception, and really allowing higher awareness to come in and inform how you're going to see things. And another thing that this also aligns with the rune Ewaz is the idea of binding toward mutual end, or mutuality. At some point, the group is going to have to come together, right, and make a decision about what they're going to do. If we look at the five as a bunch of different opportunities that are presenting themselves, then it's the clash of ideas. It's the clash of trying to make some kind of decision in a way that benefits the group. And when you bring Ewaz into it, I think that the idea of binding toward mutual end becomes a real factor here. Eventually, you have to make a decision, and one that's going to not simply benefit the ego, and because at this point, this is like a clash of egos, really. And at some point you have to let go of the ego and figure out what's going to be best for the group. If this is a group of people that work together, for example, and they're trying to decide, okay, which job do we want to take? Which job do we want to do first? What's going to give us the most income? Or if it's not income, what's going to give us a good foundation for future work, maybe? So, each person's got the idea, well, let's do this. Well, no, let's do this. And nobody can really hear one another. They're all caught up in their own little agendas, if you will. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing. I know that I always usually talk about it as, well, you have your own personal agenda here. Well, and sometimes that's a bad thing, but realistically, it's the sharing of ideas, the sharing of perspective, and you've got these different opportunities you want to look at and see, well, which one do we want to take first? Or maybe just which one do we want to take? What's going to serve everybody the best? And again, it doesn't have to be something that gives you an immediate windfall, but it could be something that if you do this, then you'll get more work from those folks, and it will then carry you through and sustain your business, essentially. So there's a lot of different ways to look at that. Again, you can take the immediate quick fix, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're building your future with it. And so again, if you're looking at the hermit, there's an element of what's really going to happen here. What, with the choice that we make, is it going to be reflecting something that understands the bigger picture of something, or are we just going to be looking at the immediate gain of it all? Sometimes you have to do that, though. Sometimes there isn't anything about the opportunities that you're looking at that really speaks to the notion of, well, will we get more work from them? The only way you might is word of mouth. It's like, oh, well, they did a great job for us, and you should hire them. It might be something like that, but there's nothing sustainable with that same person or business or what have you coming back and using your business. Maybe you manufacture things and you need that repeat business. Well, again, you don't want to get stuck in outmoded ideas with the king and use your authority that way. You want to allow, with the ace, you want to allow for more, for something new to take hold, for some new perception to take place, and to understand things differently than you do, from a higher state of awareness versus the ego driving that whole experience. And again, reinforced by the hermit, which is the soul coming in saying, well, yeah, you want to think about this from a higher standpoint, from a higher purpose, from a higher level of resolve, maybe. And again, with Kata Draconis, it's going to also reinforce the Geomancy rune Karser, in terms of how are you allowing the past to influence how you see the future? Are you going to be able to allow the inner will or the inner friction, which also, is part of the hermit here, the inner voice, if you will, of higher self? Are you going to allow that to then guide your purpose and guide ultimately the results of what you're going to do? So it's just that basically as above, so below dichotomy that we're always dealing with this. That's just the nature of existence and form. It's that balance between ego and reaction and higher awareness and non-reaction, or reaction in a way that doesn't just involve you, but involves other people as well. What benefits everyone? There's so many people right now that are doing things that benefit only themselves, and they ignore the impact it has on people around them. And in business, you'll see that periodically where people are not on the same page. And you get some that are trying to keep stuff from others. And it's a real issue, especially if it's the owner, if you've got a bunch of owners of a company where a couple or one or whatever, a small number maybe, are doing things that the rest don't know about. And it drags the rest into something that, all of a sudden something goes sideways, and whatever protection you would have had as a corporation, because you've got some of them doing things that the others haven't approved of, it creates a real drama, especially, if there's a court case or whatever involved. It creates a real drama. So it's vital that when you have those cooperative efforts going, whether it's a bunch of people owning a business or you've got just the workers themselves, the employees themselves, trying to figure out, okay, what direction do we want to take here with what we're doing? You have to have the ability to see the whole picture and to understand what's at stake. You have to be able to understand that if groups have autonomy within a business, for example, they're going to the only way they sustain that autonomy is to understand everything about everyone in the group and what everybody needs. If you've always got somebody doing something underhanded in the group, or stepping out and doing things without the agreement of everyone else, then there's nothing sustainable about that group, is all I'm saying. And so again, when that's the case, this could indicate something that's unsustainable if it stays in this format. So whether it's at work or maybe in your family or neighbors or some kind of, group situation that's going on, whatever it is, be sure that people's views are respected, that everybody knows what's going on, so that you don't get yourself in a position where you've harmed other people without them even being able to say, hey, don't do that, because they don't even have a clue what's going on. So that's another way to look at this. And I'm starting to lose my voice now with the cottonwood fuzz everywhere. Oh, God. It's just a yearly occurrence here. It's just what happens, and we muddle through, and our, concentration is muddled, and our focus is muddled, and it's like, well, did we do that? Did we do that? It's like, yes, we did that. But you got to sit and think about it, because you can't think very clearly. But again, just allow higher self to come in and tell you what you need to do. You know what you need to do. It's just the ego wants to struggle against that. It's like, no, do what I want. Like, well, I don't know. Doesn't always work. Again, maybe in the short term for you, but for everybody else is sitting around going, well, not so much for me. I don't agree to that. So anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. I've got to go drink some tea now. I probably should have been doing this all along. Maybe I can end the reading here without a bunch of scratchiness in my throat. But take care of yourselves this weekend, and have a good time. Have some fun outside if you can. We're going to start heating up. We're going to have our hay done next week, I guess, and I guess we're going to be in the 90s all next week or some such thing. It's like, okay, thank God I have air conditioning. But have a good weekend, and be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.